LSU's Mansoor Delane is arguably the best cornerback in the 2026 NFL Draft, but he is not a top 10 pick.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Damian Parson. I'm an NFL draft analyst for Bleacher Report. That's Keith Sanchez. He is the director of scouting with the Draft Network and 2019 national champion with the LSU Tigers. And as always, thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen of the day. And thank you for making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network in America. It's all because of you. CB1. That was the consensus says about Mansoor Delane out of LSU. We're going to break down the pros, the good things, the things we really like about his game, the concerns heading into the NFL, and then explain the grade, give the NFL comps, and if we have a little bit of time, what are some ideal landing spots for him at the end of the show? But before that, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into even bigger potential wins with a college basketball parlay profit boost. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. Mansoor Delane came into the combine, Keith, listed at 6 foot even, 187 pounds, 30 inches even on the arms, 8.78 on the hand. He did not do any of the physical athletic testing. So he will, someone asked him about that at the combine. He said, turn on my tape. Which was probably the best answer you could give. He said, I will be testing at LSU's Pro Day here shortly, Keith. But when you look at Mansoor Delane, what is his superpower? What's that A trait for him heading into the NFL as one of the top corners in this class?
Man, I think his instincts. I think this is a very instinctual young man, and you've seen something unlocked as he was able to I thought play from mixed depths as far as pre-snap, right? Play some press man, play some off coverage, play 5 yards off, 5 to 7 yards off, play 10 yards off, right? And when he was able to really see everything, I thought he did a good job of diagnosing plays. And the instincts, I thought it applied to the passing game, but it also applied to those quick screens, those bubble screens, and the run game, right? Where he was able to step in, and he's the type of corner as far as a tackling corner that when you design plays, you can ask him to be part of the run defense, right? The run structure. Like he can be a D-gap guy, right? He can be a guy that you set on the edge and he's supposed to contain. Every corner isn't that, right? Some guy like you're talking about having inserting corners into run defense, you're going to probably be in trouble, right? But I thought that he was physical enough, tough enough, and he was disruptive enough, right? And that's the key. You just have to be disruptive enough at the cornerback position, and I thought he was to be able to do it all. So yeah, I look at the instincts and how he is able to just naturally find himself around the football, and that's both in the passing game and in the run game.
No, 100%, Keith. I think the instincts are such a big part of his game, and how he's able. Also, it allows him to play fast, right? Like we always talk about play speed over time speed. You could be a raw athlete at times out of this world, but when we get into between the lines of a football game, you got to think quickly. You got to process information. You have to identify what's going on. And like you said, from whether it's from press man, off man, zone, whatever it is, like he is very good about being where he needs to be within the confines of that defensive coverage. But also, I think like man coverage, he's one of the better man-to-man corners in college football. Like that, again, watching him. Now, would I have loved to see him get a full game versus Antonio Williams week 1 against Clemson? Sure. But Antonio suffered that. I think it was a hamstring, whatever it was, on like the 3rd or 4th play from scrimmage or something like that. But watching him in person, Keith, I was so blown away with how smooth this dude is. Like he's smooth. He's got quick feet. He knows how to mirror and match laterally. If you do attack vertically, he'll be in your hip pocket. He uses like the word sticky in terms of playing man coverage. He's a gnat. He's annoying. Like, because he's right in your hip pocket. You go to that Arkansas game where I think he had 1 or 2 interceptions in that game. I think he picked Taylor Green off on the out route. And I'm just like the ability to click and close from, in coverage, that's there for him as well. He makes plays on the ball. He was per PFF accounted for, I think, 8 PBUs and 2 interceptions on the season this year. And this wasn't a situation. Remember when we talked during the football season, Penn State's AJ Harris wasn't targeted like that at the beginning of the season. And everybody's like, man, like he's locking things down. It's like, no, he's just playing the cupcake schedule right now. And then once they got in the Big Ten play and started playing better teams, it was like, oh, that's not what was happening at the beginning of the season. It's not like that situation. And AJ being the really physically talented corner, went back to school. We'll talk about him next year heading into the draft. Mansoor Delane was still being targeted. Like teams still targeted because he was covering most times their number one wide receiver or their most dynamic wide receiver. It just the targets didn't turn into receptions. And that's the thing, man. I think this guy has the ability to play man-to-man coverage at a high level and just crowd the line of scrimmage. And it's almost, to be honest, Keith, he kind of reminds me a little bit of, I don't want to go straight to comps, but the way that Denzel Ward plays. Denzel Ward is a little bit of a slimmer, undersized corner that's not about to try and be physical at the line of scrimmage. You know what I mean? I remember when I can't remember which podcast it was. It was I Am Athlete years ago before things changed with it. And I think Jamar Chase and T. Higgins were on there, and they were talking about corners that they knew, like what I think they were asked, what corners in the league when you see this team on the schedule, like, all right, I already know what time it is. Let's strap the chin.
I do remember this. Yeah, I remember this.
He talked about Denzel Ward, Greg Newsome, and them boys. And I think it was because you and T are some physical dudes. Y'all like to displace guys and just throw them out the way. Those weren't the type of corners that were going to let that happen. They were going to soft press, soft shoe you, mirror, move with you. Like they weren't going to initiate physicality. They were going to be in the hip pocket and stay tight to you. That's when I see Mansoor Delane. I think for teams that want to play a lot of man, 100%. I think this is the type of corner you want on your team. He can play all the other coverages as well, but I think his superpower is man coverage and ability to play one-on-one and play with the leverage to the defense, the technique, and the football IQ.
Yeah, no, I'm with that. And I thought it was like experience, right? And we always talk about process, right? I thought he was a guy that usually didn't get sped up too fast, right? Like it wasn't. And I always talk about this, the panic and patience. He was pretty patient throughout the whole entire process, right? Of the duration of the play, but just during different plays, right? Like he stayed patient. I thought he stayed with his technique. I thought, when you're talking about being in off coverage and stuff like that, wasn't quick to immediately flip his hips, right? And bail out of there. He was a risk taker in a sense. Like he took calculated risks to be able to make plays on the football, and just had the trust and the confidence in himself. When I was
zero touchdowns allowed, Keith. He allowed 0 touchdowns all 2025, which you know how hard that is to do in man coverage in the SEC, and you're being targeted. He allowed 0 touchdowns per PFF. So
I mean that's performing at a high level. I want to ask you this real quick before we transition. What bracket do you put him in? Like, is he like? Do you feel like he's an elite cornerback prospect, a good one? And what I'm saying is, I mean, we might as well use the LSU tree, right? There's the Derek Stingleys, right, of the world. There's that bracket. There's I'm about to say part of my comp. I'm not gonna say that. Never mind. There's the Derek Stingleys of the world, and then there's the corners like the Christian Fultons, right, who were high second round picks, right on the fringe of being a first rounder. Where does he fall in that bracket of guys for you? Like, is this elite cornerback prospect, or are we looking at a really good corner?
I think he's a really, really good corner. I don't want to put Stingley was prime Stingley at LSU is a different animal. You know what I mean? He had checked every box of height, weight, probably arm length, speed, athleticism. Didn't really matter, right? He checked all of those physical boxes. There are going to be some physical boxes that we're going to talk about in just a minute that Delane doesn't check exactly. That's going to hurt the profile just a little bit for him.
Yep, I agree with DP. Let's get into that conversation and let's talk about the cons, right? What are the concerns for Mansoor Delane, and which may prevent him from being a potentially top 10 pick in our eyes? So let's get into the concerns and let's discuss those coming up next.
College basketball is nonstop. Big games, tight spreads, momentum swings every single night. From early tip-offs to late-night West Coast shootouts, there's always action on the board. And now FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into even bigger potential wins with a college basketball parlay profit boost. You can build any college hoops parlay you want, rivalry games, ranked matchups, whatever fits your read. You can mix spreads, totals, and player props to match how you see the slate playing out. Look at the odds around your favorite team if they are still in season. Go safe, go bold, ride with the team you've been following all season long. It's your parlay, your style, and now with more upside behind it. Head to FanDuel.com today to get started. Guys, head to FanDuel.com today to get started. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, play your game. Discussing the concerns for LSU star cornerback Mansoor Delane is what we're getting into next. But guys, free agency is here, and so are we. Get 1 month free of the Everydayer Club with code free agency, no spaces, now through March 15th. Go ad free and keep this conversation about Mansoor Delane or any other corner going on Discord. Join the club at LockedOnNFLDraft.supercast.com. The concerns, Keith, I think it's more physical than anything. 30 inches even on the arms. I think that's going to be a concern for most people when it pertains to playing that cornerback position at the next level, because you think about battling at the catch point against the best of the best. First of all, you're going to be asked to man cover or cover the best athletes in the world at the wide receiver position. And some of these guys are going to be a different body, strength, speed, athleticism profile that you will see week in and week out. And I mentioned T. Higgins with the Cincinnati Bengals. If you were to be drafted to a team in that division and you have to man up against Jamar or T physically from a wingspan standpoint, you're not going to measure up if Joe says, I want to give my guys a chance to high point. These are guys that can be able to go up over the top of you. We don't have a verified vertical on you yet or a broad jump to know just how explosive of a raw athlete you are. But from an arm length and wingspan standpoint, that is going to be a negative in those. I'm taking those guys, not just because they're some of the best in the league. You don't measure up wingspan wise. And I think also, Keith, I think athletically he's fine. The one guy I see that we talk about speeding them up, the only one guy, and I think you mentioned it, that he talked about, you might have heard at the combine, is Casey Concepcion. That's the one guy I saw was able to kind of speed him up because he was a little worried about the top end speed and explosiveness of Casey. But everybody else, he stayed, like you said, panic or patient. He was patient. He was calm, cool, collected. So you want to know exactly how fast are you? You know what I mean? How explosive are you? But the wingspan is probably going to be one of the big things, especially if you do try to get physical and reroute some guys. You don't have a lot of you don't got a lot of reach to work with.
No, you don't. And the speed part, DP, I think is the part that I'm still like, okay, where does this fall at, and what am I willing to compromise on, right? Because usually your elite corners, right? Like the top ones, we like explosive athletes, right? Like even if we skip past the Derek Stingley coming out, the JC Horns, right? Like we even had the conversation about Patrick Surtain, right? And he had to check that box to say like, okay, you're top notch. If he runs, my question is this: if Mansoor Delane runs a 4.5 flat, what does that do for you? What does that change for you? And like, how high are you willing to draft him as a 4.5 flat corner?
I think I still draft him top 15 easy.
Okay.
I think, with the over the last last about 7 to 10 years, honestly, the influx of too high safety shells and teams trying to take away the explosive anyway, I would prefer a guy to have that, like, while I want that top end speed, like to be because let's put it in context. Running 4.3 or 4.4 as a corner is great in terms of recovery, that recoverability, right? But if I'm a team that typically lives in too high anyway, whether it's two man under, cover 4, cover 2, whatever I'm running, I always typically have 2 safeties back. I'm not overly concerned because I know he's going to be able to stay in the hip pocket underneath and force a really difficult, tight window throw that you probably either have to have elite anticipation, or you have to have elite arm strength and talent to fire that ball into a hole shot between my top corner and my top safety that's over the top. So I don't really, if he runs a 4.5, I'm not going to panic. I mean, Twitter might. I know Twitter lose their minds probably like, oh my God, he's not an elite athlete. But when you look at most defenses nowadays, you're playing with safety help anyway.
Yeah, no, and that's what I wanted to get into. And I guess for him, does that make him? Do you think he has to be scheme specific, or is there something that you don't want him to play? Like as far as if it was a defense where you're like, you know what, they blitz heavy, he gonna play a lot of press man situations. Is there a situation where you're like, I'm not fully comfortable with that with him?
Yeah, I think if we're talking like we're seeing a lot of zero pressure, like a ton of zero pressure and stuff like that, and it did, of course.
Let's say the Vikings. The Vikings.
Him versus Justin Jefferson, two LSU guys. I think I would trust him enough to cover him, but it's Justin Jefferson. I'm still trying to keep we're probably playing with if we're running anything zero, I'm playing them off anyway. You know what I mean? I'm like, yeah, no, I'm all off coverage.
No, look, this is what I was asking as far as scheme, defensive scheme.
Oh, gotcha.
Because the D coordinator likes to blitz a lot, right? And
gotcha. Yeah,
could leave you on potentially on islands and things like that. So I was
I would still feel comfortable with him because I think who do they have over there? Guy used to be in Arizona. Byron Murphy is who they have over there. And he was, if I remember him coming out of what was it, Washington? I'm pulling up his mock draft right now. He was a 4.55 guy. You know what I mean?
I was about to say, it actually might not be a horrible comp for him.
Right.
As far as just they're probably the same height, weight, and everything too.
Yeah, he's Byron Murphy came in like 5'10", 190. And then I think Mansoor checked in at 6 foot 187 and everything at the combine. So I think because of the fact that Byron Murphy is able to thrive in that situation, I think Mansoor can as well. And I would definitely, I have Mansoor. I remember watching Byron Murphy. He was good. Mansoor is better than him, of course, but I think that situation he could still thrive in and be okay. But yeah, I think I wouldn't, again, I more than likely I would like to have him more in a scheme that does protect the deep ball and allow him to just suffocate guys with tight coverage underneath and make that quarterback have to throw into some tight windows. Like that's ultimately what I want to do. That's my go-to coverage 9 times out of 10. Spoiler alert, guys, you play me in Madden or NCAA, you see it too high. Man-to-man coverage off the rip. You're going to have to beat that. You know what I'm saying? And if you're a slant guy, I'm shading my corners inside. You better get vertical and you better be accurate because I play on the safeties. You know what I mean? So that's how I look at it. I think that's going to be a big thing for him, though. I think testing is going to be big. Just to answer that, do you have the recovery speed? The way, hey, if you do miss, let's say you do get a little aggressive and you miss that punch and that guy clears you and now he stacked you, can you get back in phase and get back in phase quickly? Or is it going to be, well, he's already leaving, he's gone situation like you are are you a Byron Murphy at 4.55, 4.56 at top end speed, or do you have closer to 4.48 and everything like that? So that's going to be a big thing for him overall.
Yeah, I agree with DP. Let's do this, man. We knocked out the pros. We knocked out the concerns. Let's get into this draft grade, right? No 40 time for Mansoor Delane, but the film is off the charts. That combination leads us to what? Where did we leave Mansoor Delane? What grade did we give him? We'll talk about a draft grade. We'll talk about a draft comp coming up next.
Workplace chaos, deadline stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you still have to fill is sitting open. When the pressure is on, you need the right hire. This is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed, sponsored jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for. Skills, experience, location. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. and listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen of the day. Thank you for making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network in America. It's all because of you. 6', 187, cornerback out of LSU, right out of your backyard, your stomping grounds. Keith, what is the grade do you have for Mr. Delane? And then we'll get into the comps.
Yeah, I gave him a 85.5. So that's right on the first round bracket. That's outside of the not in the same tier with the guys, the Sonny Styles, the Arvell Reeses, right? Like I don't see a cornerback that we've discussed yet, right? We still have to go through Jamal McCoy and potentially Avion Terrell, right? Go through those cornerback prospects. We got to get to those guys, but I'm not sure if I'm locking in a cornerback as a top 10 pick just for this draft class, right? So he'll sit towards the top of the cornerback grades. He just won't be in the elite player bucket. I'm gonna go into a comp, and I this comp is gonna be really tough. I'm gonna say it, and I'm not 100% in love with it, but he just reminded me of this young man coming out. And that was Tre'Davious White. And that's what I was about to say at the top of the show. He reminds me of Tre'Davious White, and I think Tre'Davious was a 4.48 guy at the NFL Combine, something like that, right? But just their versatility, willing to tackle, and just play ball. Tre'Davious didn't go extremely high on him, but I think he went like in the 20-somethings to the Buffalo Bills. But this is the other side of that, right? That I really liked Tre'Davious White. I thought he was versatile. He was a punt returner, kick returner at LSU, made plays on a football, team leader, captain, has had an extensive career in the NFL. He's also made Pro Bowls, right? Some years. So I can see that potential career trajectory for Mansoor Delane. But and maybe it was because I was watching LSU film, right? Like I was thinking of LSU corner, but Tre'Davious White came to mind. And I think they're really similar from a body profile standpoint. I think they both sit at that 6 foot, 190 pounds, somewhere around there.
Yeah. Gotcha. Okay. No, I like that. Cause again, these comps are never easy. So I went with two. I went one on the high athletic side, the other one on the solid athletics. I mean, heck, he ran a 4.4, so he's still a good athlete. So on the high athletic side, and I went measurable, went the mock draftable. Quinyon Mitchell. Quinyon came in at 6 foot 1/8, 195. He had 31-inch arms, but Quinyon also ran a 4.33 with a 38-inch vert. You know what I mean? He was Quinyon was an explosive athlete and a legit athlete. And I remember that was my last year at the Draft Network, and I interviewed him in the Panini booth, and I talked to him. I was like, "What are you testing?" He's like, "Just know I'm about to blow the doors off." And I was like, "Oh, word, all right, bet." And then he runs and hits that 4.33, and I text him. I was like, "I see what you meant. Like, I see what 100% what you meant." You know what I mean? 4.33, 38-inch vert. He's, in terms of like coverage wise, Mansoor's more developed man in man coverage. Where you remember anybody go back to Toledo? Shout out to Toledo, man. They got Avery Smith, who's going to be probably a day 3 pick, more of a nickel corner in this year's draft. You got EMW, who's got top 32 buzz as a safety. They are doing something with recruiting DBs. Shout out to Toledo, man, and that coaching staff and that recruiting team. But at Toledo, he played a lot of cover 4 in terms of Quinyon. And when you look at Mansoor Delane, he plays a lot more man. So he's more developed in man coverage than Quinyon was because of just the difference in schemes and what they were asked to do. So if he depends on what he tests at at his pro day. If we get 4.4 to 4.3 anything, I'm like, all right, I'm cool with the Quinyon Mitchell one, right? Just a press man version of Quinyon Mitchell. The other one, Keith, this dude just got a bag too. Trent McDuffie, 5'10", 193. He came in with 29 3/4 on the arm. He did run a 4.44 with a 1.58 10-yard split per mock draftable. So when I think about Mansoor Delane, I think he can potentially, because of the wings, the arm length situation, right? He could fit that type of mold. Because I think, again, watching Trent McDuffie is one of the best just pure cover guys in the league. But at the same time, when you do lack that wingspan and that reach, really accurate quarterbacks can be able to put the ball in a place where you just can't reach it. You know what I mean? Especially if they anticipate it. So against man-to-man coverage, if that guy has a little bit of a step on you on the slant, they can use his frame against you because you can't play through him. And I think that's one of the big concerns, just going back to concerns about a Mansoor Delane when we talk about just the arm length or the concerns period. But I think that if he tests high-end testing at the pro day, I can see a Quinyon Mitchell, just a more man coverage, man versed version of Quinyon Mitchell. If he tests in the 4.4s, anything in the 4.4s, I'm leaning at Trent McDuffie. That just, again, he just got a bag from the Los Angeles Rams, and I think that could be the same kind of career trajectory as just a pure man-to-man technician, smooth, quick-footed mover with good hips, guy that could be able to stay in phase against most or a majority of the wide receivers in the NFL.
Yeah, for sure. So DP, it's funny you went with a former Washington corner because I thought about his teammate, Kyler Gordon.
Oh, Kyler Gordon. Okay.
The reason why, here it is out, his profile, DP, 5'11 and a half, 195 pounds, almost exact. Arm, 31 inches.
Yep.
40 time, 4.52. So if he tests across the board that, and Kyler Gordon was a second round pick. Yeah, he went early in the second round. He was the 7th pick in the second round, which we talk about this all the time. I think that was the same. Was that this Derek Stingley? Yeah, that was Derek Stingley and Sauce Gardner, right? Derek Stingley, Sauce Gardner, Trent McDuffie, Kyer Elam, right? Like that was a good draft class with corners. So things vary per draft class. So Kyler Gordon in this draft class would probably been a first round pick, right? Like he would have went first round. I think like even guys like Lewis Sign might have went ahead of him. In that draft class. So you tweak a couple things, and Kyler Gordon has been really good. And I agree with you with the Trent McDuffie conversation, and that's why I'm going with Kyler too, and what he does for the Chicago Bears as far as being a blitzer out of the nickel and playing in the nickel and being in run support. Like I could see Mansoor doing all of those different things in the NFL.
For sure. No, I like that a lot, Keith. Now, as we get ready to close this thing out too, like let's look at some teams. And you said I'm kind of with you. I don't know. The one team I could say, I was like, okay, maybe they go corner, top 5, and that was probably the Giants. But I think Sonny Styles is the spot. They lost Bobby Orike, the linebacker, he's a free agent. I think they're setting out. They brought in Tremaine Edmonds, who was with the Bills and the Bears, 2 or 3 year deal. I think Sonny Styles goes at 5. The other spots, like you look at the Browns, no. Commanders, no. Saints, no. Even though they did lose Alontae Taylor, who played that kind of outside nickel role throughout his career, but I think that they probably go somewhere else at 8. Chiefs, does Andy Reid say Spags in there? Like, let me get Trent McDuffie 2.0. We just lost my guy because we had to, trade him for a first, and he was going to command a big contract. Let me get that guy again, maybe at number 9. I don't think the Bengals do it at 10. The ideal, I think, where we start seeing corners really hit is that 11, 12, and 13 spot, whereas Miami at 11, Dallas at 12, and the Rams at 13. Well, no, not even the Rams. The Rams double down that corner, so they're going wide receiver, guys. I'm telling you right now, it's going to be Jordan Tyson or Mekhi Lemon at 13. So earliest you see a corner come off the board, more than likely, is going to be pick 11 to the Dolphins.
Yeah, that's what I believe too. Kansas City, like you said, would be interesting just because they addressed the running back situation, and obviously they have big holes at cornerback now. They're probably the most pressing team inside of the top 10 with cornerback need. As we continue to go down this board, DP, the Jets maybe at 16. Do the Jets take a swing on it? I believe that the Bucks, right? The Bucks in free agency lost I think Jamel
Dean.
They lost Jamel Dean, so they can be a conversation. So I agree. Like after pick 11 and down, there are a lot of teams that can go cornerback. A lot of them, right? We always talk the Minnesota Vikings. Seems like they always need corners. So there are a lot of teams past that, and I think we see the first corner probably go between picks 11 and 20. That, like, as of now, that's my guess, and that's without any other big shakeups.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we still got,
and we probably see multiple, honestly, because we're talking about Mansoor, but we still have to get into the conversation of Avion Terrell, who and Jamar McCoy. So
so definitely we're expecting to see at least 3 corners off the board in round 1. Just got to find those landing spots for these guys, because free agency's shaking things up right now, as the first week of free agency is really truly underway and in full swing. But definitely think, Mansoor Delane's a top 15, top 20 talent in this class. I think if he was, at 6 foot even, if he had 31, 32s and he tested 4.4 plus or 4.4 at minimum, right? Like 4.44, like Trent McDuffie, he got 31, 32-inch arms. Yeah, I think teams that looked at Quinyon, I think they would draft him higher if they did a redraft right now, because of how good. Heck, they won a Super Bowl his rookie year. Him and Cooper DeJean transformed their secondary. Like, they would absolutely draft him higher than, I think he went like top 25, maybe like, did he go like top 20? Like in the teens, I think, if I remember correctly, for Quinyon Mitchell. He probably goes much higher than that. You know what I mean? If teams in the redraft, just because of how good he's been. But yeah, I think Mansoor Delane, top 15, top 20 talent, that's going to fall down the board just a little bit because he's not going to check every physical box.
Yep, I agree. He was the 22nd overall pick, DP.
Quinyon. He's probably closer to 10.
It's definitely going to hide in there. But DP, that wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to end this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we like to say, man, y'all can talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Guys, come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.